The day my family disowned me, it was raining. I remember that detail clearly. The way the water streamed down the windows of Martina's Fashion Group's private showroom while inside, my dad's face turned an alarming shade of red. My heart pounded as I watched his fury build. "Incompetent," he shouted, slamming a stack of papers onto the polished marble table. The sound echoed through the room like a gunshot. "Do you have any idea what your mistake could have cost us?" I stood there, 25 years old and fresh out of art school, trying not to cry. The scent of expensive leather and silk from the surrounding displays made me dizzy with anxiety. My hands trembled at my sides. "Dad, I can fix it. The proposal isn't finalized yet." "Fix it?" My older brother Tristan's laugh was cruel, cutting through me like glass. "You nearly cost us $3 million in investment funding with your ridiculous budget projections. There is no fixing that kind of stupidity." His words stung worse than any physical blow. The mistake they were talking about was a brand proposal I'd prepared for Martina's Luxury, our new men's line. I'd supposedly miscalculated production costs, inflating them to 3 times the actual amount. My stomach churned as I remembered the hours I'd spent perfecting those numbers. The error had been caught before any real damage was done. But to hear my family tell it, I'd nearly destroyed 4 generations of Martina's fashion legacy. "I trusted you with this," my dad continued, his voice dropping to something even worse than yelling. "Disappointment." The word hit me like a physical weight. "I gave you a chance to prove yourself, and this is how you repay that trust." I tried to explain that I'd been working 80-hour weeks, my eyes burning from staring at design sketches and budget spreadsheets. I'd been trying to handle both the luxury line launch and the new women's collection they dumped on my desk without warning. But excuses didn't matter in the Martinez family. Results were all they cared about. "Rodrigo," my mom's voice from the doorway made us all turn. She stood there in her perfect Valentino suit, looking more like the magazine editor she was than the supportive mother I desperately needed. Her cold expression made my chest tighten. "The investors are waiting." My dad straightened his tie with sharp, angry movements. "Then, we'll finish this discussion later." But we didn't. That evening I was called to my dad's office. The room where 4 generations of Martinez designers had created the vision that built our fashion empire. The framed magazine covers and awards seemed to watch disapprovingly as my dad delivered his verdict. My legs felt weak as I approached his desk. "You're done here," he said without preamble. "The investors have lost confidence in your judgment. And your position at Martinez Fashion Group is terminated effective immediately." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "Dad, please. It was one mistake. A mistake we can't afford." He wouldn't even look at me, his eyes fixed on the papers before him. "You'll receive 6 months severance. After that, you're on your own." "You're firing me?" "I'm your daughter." The words came out as a whisper. Which is exactly why this hurts so much. He finally met my eyes, and I saw something that looked almost like regret. "You're not just an employee, Delilah. You're a Martinez. We trusted you to live up to that name and you failed." My mom's voice came from behind me, making me jump. I hadn't even heard her enter. "We've arranged a position for you at your uncle's firm in Miami, far enough away that this incident won't reflect badly on the family." I turned to face her, shocked by her casual cruelty. "You want me to leave Los Angeles?" "Want has nothing to do with it." Her perfectly painted lips barely moved. "The decision has been made. Your flight leaves tomorrow morning." "And if I refuse?" My dad's voice hardened like ice. "Then you're on your own completely. No severance, no connections, no family support. It's your choice." I looked between them, these 2 people who had shaped my entire world. The parents who had pushed me toward art school, who had drilled the importance of the Martinez legacy into me since childhood. Now they were casting me aside over one mistake. My throat burned with unshed tears. "Some choice," I whispered. Only one person in the family stood up for me that night. My grandfather, Alejandro Martinez, the man who had turned our small LA boutique into a global fashion empire. He stormed into my dad's office just as I was leaving, his face dark with anger. Rodrigo, you fool. He growled at my dad. You have no idea what you're throwing away. But my dad stood firm, his jaw set stubbornly. Papa, the investors have already. The investors. Grandpa's laugh was bitter, filled with decades of wisdom. You mean those money-hungry vultures you surrounded yourself with? The ones who forgot what built this company in the first place? I had never seen my grandfather so angry, his hands shaking with rage. He turned to me, his expression softening like sunlight breaking through clouds. Delilah, my girl, come stay with me. We'll sort this out. But I was already shaking my head, the humiliation burning in my chest. The humiliation was too fresh, the pain too raw. No, Grandpa. I left that night, ignoring my mom's carefully planned Miami arrangement. The 6-month severance would be enough to start over somewhere, anywhere that wasn't under my family's shadow. What I didn't know then was that my grandfather had already set something in motion, something that wouldn't be revealed until 10 years later when his will would turn the Martinez family upside down. That night I checked into a hotel using my personal credit card, soon to be my only credit card once my corporate accounts were frozen. I sat on the generic floral bedspread and opened my laptop, staring at the brand proposal that had supposedly destroyed my future. Except something wasn't right. I had worked on dozens of proposals during my brief time at Martinez Fashion Group. I knew my own design style, my own presentation format. This proposal was different. Small things, font choices, color schemes, even some of the budget language were off. With trembling fingers, I pulled up the original file from my secured backup drive. The differences were subtle but unmistakable. Someone had altered my work before it reached the investors. Someone had wanted me to fail. I thought about my brother Tristan's smirk, the way he had been so quick to condemn my mistake. The way he had positioned himself as the only capable heir to the Martinez empire. My grandfather's voice echoed in my head, "You have no idea what you're throwing away." But maybe I did. Maybe I understood exactly what had happened and why. I closed my laptop and walked to the window, watching the city lights blur through the rain. 10 years ago, my great-grandfather had passed control of Martinez Fashion Group to my grandfather instead of his older brother, a decision that had shocked the fashion world. History, it seemed, had a way of repeating itself in our family. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. A text from my grandfather, "Nothing is what it seems, Delilah. Watch. Wait. Learn." I took a deep breath, making a decision that would shape the next decade of my life. I would not run to Miami. I would not fade quietly into obscurity. I would watch. I would wait. And most importantly, I would learn exactly how deep this betrayal went. What my family didn't know, what even my grandfather couldn't have predicted, was that their mistake was about to turn into their worst nightmare. Because the proposal I had actually prepared, the one that had been altered without my knowledge, it contained a hidden design element, a small but crucial detail that would only become apparent years later. A detail that would give me control of Martinez Fashion Group's most valuable creative assets right when the family needed them most. I smiled at my reflection in the rain-streaked window. They thought they were teaching me a lesson about failure. Instead, they were about to learn one about underestimating the wrong person. My grandfather's next text arrived just as I was falling asleep. "Remember, my girl, in fashion as in chess, the designer is the most powerful piece on the board. Even if some fools think she's just decorative." I didn't understand his message then. But I would. 10 years is a long time to wait for revenge. But my grandfather taught me that patience was worth more than gold in the fashion world. And he was right. I spent the first year building my cover, a small design studio in San Francisco, far enough from Los Angeles to avoid family scrutiny but close enough to keep tabs on Martinez Fashion Group. My grandfather's cryptic messages continued. "Watch the Milan Fashion Week contracts," he texted me. "And pay attention to the European licensing deals." Small breadcrumbs that helped me understand the bigger picture. The mistake that got me fired, it wasn't just about the luxury line proposal. That presentation had been a test, one designed to show the investors that I wasn't fit to lead. What my brother Tristan hadn't realized was that I had left my own signature hidden in the design specs. It was embedded in the technical specification Design Trademark 23.4, Section B. In the event of brand restructuring or asset transfer, original designer maintains first right of refusal on all European market designs and associated intellectual property. A clause that would mean nothing for years, until Martinez Fashion Group decided to restructure their entire European operation, which according to my grandfather's intelligence, was exactly what they were planning. I built my new life carefully, layer by layer. My design studio, Phoenix Creative Studio, specialized in luxury brand identity and visual marketing. We were small but innovative, earning a reputation for solving complex branding problems that bigger agencies couldn't handle. Tristan, meanwhile, was living the life of the chosen heir. I watched from afar as he appeared in fashion magazines, accepting awards and making grand promises about Martinez Fashion Group's future. Our parents beamed in every photo. The perfect fashion dynasty. Only my grandfather seemed to see through the facade. Your brother's latest collection is built on borrowed trends, he told me during one of our secret meetings, always in small cafes far from Beverly Hills. He's leveraging the company's reputation on short-term profits. I nodded, stirring my coffee. The European expansion? Smoke and mirrors. My grandfather's eyes twinkled. He's using the design house's legacy as collateral, thinking it's worth more than it is because he never understood the real value was in the creative vision, not the manufacturing. Exactly. He reached into his briefcase. Now, about those trademark renewals coming up. We spent the next hour reviewing documents that would have made my dad's blood pressure spike. My grandfather wasn't just keeping me informed. He was teaching me how to take back what was rightfully mine. The years passed. I grew Phoenix Creative Studio into a respected name in the industry, though I stayed carefully out of the spotlight. My employees were handpicked, loyal, and well compensated for their discretion. None of them knew about my connection to Martinez Fashion Group. I dated occasionally but never seriously. The last man I trusted with my real identity had run straight to my brother with the information. After that, I kept my personal life as carefully controlled as my business one. My parents sent obligatory holiday cards to my San Francisco address, cards I never responded to. Each year they included a note about how well Tristan was doing, how the company was thriving under his leadership. I filed each card away in a folder labeled motivation. Then 3 years ago, everything started changing. The cracks in Tristan's perfect facade began to show. First came the whispers about missed payments to major fabric suppliers. Then rumors of delayed collections and angry retailers. Martinez Fashion Group's stock price, while still strong, showed troubling fluctuations. Tristan mortgaged the company's future, my grandfather explained during what would turn out to be our last meeting. Now those bills are coming due. He looked tired that day, more so than usual. I should have recognized it as a warning sign. The board is starting to ask questions, he continued, about the design division, especially the restructuring plan. We'll trigger my clause. If they try to sell off or reorganize the European designs, you'll have first right of refusal. He smiled proudly. The signature they never noticed, hidden in the proposal they used to destroy you. 2 months later, my grandfather had a stroke. The doctors said it was quick, painless. The official announcement praised him as a titan of fashion. The man who built Martinez Fashion Group into a global power. I attended the funeral, of course, standing in the back of the church, watching my family play their roles of grieving heirs. Tristan gave a touching eulogy about learning fashion at our grandfather's knee. I nearly laughed out loud at that. The only thing Tristan had learned from my grandfather was how to take credit for other people's designs. My parents saw me but didn't approach. Maybe they were ashamed. More likely, they were worried I would cause a scene. I left before the reception, driving straight to my lawyer's office. Your grandfather's will reading is scheduled for next week, she informed me. He was very specific about the timing. I nodded, unsurprised. Everything about my grandfather was specific and carefully planned. All major shareholders and family members are required to attend in person, she continued. No proxies allowed. This was also typical of my grandfather's approach. He would want everyone there to witness whatever he had planned. The next week passed in a blur of preparation. I reviewed every document, every contract, every piece of information my grandfather had shared over the past decade. Phoenix Creative Studio was positioned perfectly, cash reserves high, credit lines secure, relationships with key designers solidified. The morning of the will reading, I dressed carefully in a charcoal gray suit that cost more than my entire wardrobe from my Martinez Fashion Group days. My hair was elegantly styled, my makeup perfect. No one looking at me would see the scared 25-year-old who had fled in the rain 10 years ago. As I drove to the lawyer's office, my phone buzzed with an alert. Martinez Fashion Group's stock had dropped another 2 points in early trading. Rumors were swirling about their ability to meet next quarter's obligations. The timing, like everything else about this situation, was perfect. I parked my car and checked my reflection one last time. In my purse was a copy of the original design proposal, the one with my hidden signature. In my briefcase were documents proving every mistake, every misstep, every bad decision my brother had made while playing Fashion Emperor. And in my head was 10 years' worth of knowledge about Martinez Fashion Group's operations, knowledge that was about to become very, very valuable. I stepped into the elevator, watching the floor numbers climb. My grandfather's last text message played in my mind: the game is won before the first piece moves. The doors opened onto a floor full of familiar faces frozen in shock. My dad dropped his coffee cup. My mom's perfect mask cracked, and my brother Tristan, the golden child, the chosen heir, turned white as a sheet. "Hello, family," I said calmly. "Shall we begin?" The conference room at Valdez and Associates law firm crackled with tension. My family had arranged themselves exactly as I expected, Tristan at the head of the table, our parents flanking him like royal advisors. The investor group filled the remaining seats, all carefully avoiding my gaze. Mr. Valdez, my grandfather's personal attorney for over 40 years, cleared his throat. "Before we begin, I should note that Alejandro was very specific about the order in which his will should be read. He left detailed instructions." Yes, Tristan interrupted. "Can we get on with it? Some of us have a fashion house to run." I bit back a smile. In a few minutes, that statement would be hilariously ironic. Mr. Valdez opened an envelope, his expression carefully neutral. "Very well. This is the last will and testament of Alejandro Martinez." The first few items were standard, personal belongings to various family members, charitable donations, arrangements for his staff. My mom dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief when he left her his vintage couture collection. My dad nodded approvingly at the size of the charitable endowments. Then came the part everyone was waiting for. Regarding Martinez Fashion Group, Mr. Valdez paused, adjusting his glasses. "The situation is complex." Tristan leaned forward. "Complex how?" The succession plan was clear. As creative director, Mr. Valdez corrected, as interim creative director. "Your position, like many things, was temporary pending the reading of this will." The room went silent. I watched the color drain from my brother's face as Mr. Valdez continued reading. "To my grandson Tristan, I leave these words of wisdom: style without substance is like a dress without foundation. You sought control but never learned what made our designs timeless. You chased trends without appreciating the craftsmanship that supported them. And most tragically, you betrayed your own sister to advance yourself." Tristan shot to his feet. "This is ridiculous." "Sit down," Mr. Valdez said firmly. "There's more." He pulled out another document, one I recognized, my original design proposal. 10 years ago, a proposal was deliberately altered to discredit Delilah Martinez and force her removal from the company. I have here the original document, along with proof of who made those alterations. My dad's face had turned an interesting shade of purple. "That's ancient history." The investor's decision was based on falsified evidence, Mr. Valdez finished, evidence that Tristan provided after tampering with his sister's work. The investor group began murmuring among themselves. I noticed several of them eyeing the exits. Furthermore, Mr. Valdez continued, the original proposal contained a clause that becomes particularly relevant now. "Delilah, would you like to explain?" All eyes turned to me. I stood slowly, smoothing my suit jacket. Design Trademark 23.4, subsection B, gives the original designer ME first right of refusal on all European market designs and associated intellectual property in the event of brand restructuring. Which means nothing, Tristan snapped. We're not restructuring the design division. Actually, I pulled out my phone, displaying the morning fashion news alerts. You are. The Milan licensing deal you announced last week, the one meant to save the company from the debt you've accumulated? It can't happen without restructuring the European operations. Which means you need my approval, I finished, and you won't get it. The room erupted in chaos. Investor group members were already on their phones, likely calling their lawyers. My mom had actual tears running down her face, ruining her perfect makeup. My dad looked like he might have a stroke. Mr. Valdez raised his voice over the din. There's more. From his briefcase, he produced a thick folder. Alejandro Martinez's majority shareholding in Martinez Fashion Group is hereby transferred in its entirety to his granddaughter, Delilah Martinez. The silence that followed was deafening. Additionally, he continued, all voting rights associated with the family trust shares are to be exercised by Delilah Martinez, effective immediately. Tristan collapsed back into his chair. This can't be legal. Dad, do something. But Dad was staring at another document Mr. Valdez had placed on the table, a detailed report of Martinez Fashion Group's finances under Tristan's leadership. Your grandfather spent the last 10 years documenting every mistake, every poor decision, every instance of mismanagement, Mr. Valdez explained. He worked closely with Delilah to understand the true state of the company while you were all believing your own press releases. I stepped forward, placing my own folder on the table. Phoenix Creative Studio, my company, has spent years building relationships with the designers you've been neglecting. We've secured contracts you didn't even know were available. And now. Now you own us, my dad whispered. No, I corrected. I own what's mine. What should have been mine 10 years ago, before you chose to believe lies over truth. Mr. Valdez cleared his throat. There's one final item. A letter Alejandro wanted read aloud. He opened a sealed envelope and began reading. To my family, true style doesn't come from titles or magazine covers. It comes from understanding. Understanding your craft, your vision, and most importantly, yourself. 10 years ago, you cast aside the one person who truly understood what made Martinez Fashion Group work. You chose flash over substance, profit over passion, betrayal over loyalty. Delilah didn't just survive your betrayal, she thrived despite it. While you were all watching Tristan play fashion mogul, she was learning every aspect of this industry. She built her own success while watching you destroy your inheritance. Consider this my final lesson in fashion: true leadership isn't about who can grab power fastest. It's about who can wield it wisely. Delilah, the company is yours. Make it what it should have been all along. To the rest of you, learn from this if you can. With love and disappointment in equal measure, Alejandro Martinez. My dad was the first to break the silence. You planned this, right? You and my father. No, I cut him off. You planned this the day you decided to forge documents to destroy my career. Grandpa and I just made sure you'd face the consequences. I turned to the investor group. A car is waiting outside to take you to Phoenix Creative's offices. My team will brief you on the restructuring plan we've developed. Those who wish to remain with the company will have the opportunity to prove their value. Those who don't, I smiled, well, I hear my brother will be looking for work soon. You can commiserate together. You can't just walk in here and take over, my dad protested weakly. Actually, that's exactly what I'm doing. I gathered my documents. The shareholders' meeting is in 1 hour. I suggest you all decide whose side you're on before then. I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Tristan. Clear out your office by 5. I'm moving in tomorrow. The next few weeks were exactly what you'd expect when a decade of mismanagement comes to light. The press had a field day with the story. Martinez heiress returns, the greatest fashion comeback in history, was my personal favorite headline. The shareholders, seeing the detailed plans I'd developed with my grandfather, overwhelmingly supported the transition. Martina's fashion group's stock price stabilized, then began to climb as we implemented changes. Tristan, predictably, tried to sue. His case fell apart when our father, finally facing the truth about his chosen heir, testified about the proposal forgery from 10 years ago. My mom attempted reconciliation in her own way, lunch invitations, shopping offers, suggestions that we should all just move forward as a family. I declined every invitation. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ashes. 1 month after taking control, I stood in my grandfather's old office, my office now, looking out over the city. On my desk sat the proposal that had started everything, framed as a reminder that sometimes losing is just winning in disguise. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I opened it to find a photo of my grandfather, taken the day he caught Tristan altering my work. He'd kept it all these years, waiting for the right moment. Below the photo was a message, scheduled to be sent after his death. The designer has taken her throne. Checkmate, my girl. I smiled, touching the frame of that old proposal. The family that cast me out had thought they were ending my story. Instead, they had only written its beginning. And now, finally, they understood exactly what they had thrown away.